Oh yeah, speaking of, did you guys see that like one of the people who worked with Marianne Williamson apparently said that she's just doing this all for a book deal? From Jeremy Elwood. Um, Marianne Williamson, her campaign's not a campaign, it is a book tour. Here is how I know. I was the national field director. I was fired, along with anyone who mentioned ballot access or field plan. Her focus is only on events and social media. I was half joking a month ago that this is a book tour. I found that on the day that I was fired, she has a book coming out in September. When I brought up in a staff call that we still don't have ballot access in any state, she literally called ballot access, quote, mythical stuff. Myself, national field director, and my partner, field strategist, were let go after we toiled to make a solid national field plan and had to pivot to political director roles to fill gaps so we could finish the field plan. We weren't allowed to complete our roles because of, quote, mythical stuff. Marion has fired those who knew how to make a campaign win and has kept and promoted those who are only event and social media aware. Again, she has no ballot access and doesn't care, calls ballot access mythical stuff. I don't know why they keep repeating this. This is from about a week ago. 6 more depart in internal feud. 6 staffers left her team through a round of firings and resignations. Yeah, Didn't she say that she knows she can't win the presidency? Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. She was never going to win the presidency. So I guess from her perspective, she could consider ballot access to be mythical in the sense that it doesn't matter because it will have no outcome on her viability as a presidential candidate. However, it's pretty dishonest to frame what you're doing as a presidential campaign when you don't actually intend to give it your all, you know? Like, even if there's no shot of you winning, that doesn't mean that you can advertise yourself as a presidential candidate but and like not do the things necessary to give it a shot, you know? Like, I don't necessarily have an issue with running as a candidate and primarily focusing on like social media stuff. I mean, we're going to talk about RFK today, but I think dishonestly promoting it or like presenting it in this way is kind of uh wait, is this Orb Mommy? Yeah, Marianne Williamson, the Orb Mommy. Yeah. Why is it so impossible to primary an incumbent president? It's not, bro. Ron DeSantis has had a ton of energy put into him running against running against Trump. The problem is that the DNC is so internally anti-democratic that they're not doing anything to promote platforms for potential future. Like, why, guys, here's a question. Why is it right now that I guarantee you that if you wanted to, you could probably rattle off a dozen prominent Republican politicians who have all had shots at or could potentially have shots at the presidency, and you can't do the same with Democrats? Why is it that when people think about alternatives to Biden, their best thought is like, oh, what about like Bernie, the 500-year-old man? Like, the problem is, even if you think that Biden is the best one to go for, which he isn't, and voters agree, including Democrat voters, that they would rather another candidate than Biden, the problem is that it takes a lot of time and effort and investment to give political actors the prominence and the platform that could make them viable candidates in the future. That shit doesn't happen magically. As a party, the whole point of the DNC is to take people of like political interests, elevate them, give people access to what they say and what they have to say, and then allow their popularity and their effectiveness to sort themselves out. So that way you have a healthy range of available candidates. Obviously, the DNC is not internally democratic, which means that like they're not obligated to do this by law. They or even like inclined to do it. But you would think purely for the health of the party, they would not want to have their only viable presidential candidate be one 80-year-old man. Like, does anyone else think that might be a little bit damaging for democracy? The idea that like the entire Democratic Party, the apparatus of the party that is larger and stronger than any other Democratic Party in the world, represented by one 80-year-old man and no other potential candidate, to the point where we basically don't even have a primary. We have Kamala, though. Kamala is worse than nobody. Kamala is the least likable human being in history. It's unfathomable how anti-charismatic she is. She can never be president, and she never will be president. Who's worse, Kamala or Pete? Kamala. Kamala's worse. Kamala's so much worse. Pete Buttigieg might be an Obama wannabe, but like, okay, sure, then do Obama, a wannabe shit. I know you did like bread price fixing and you're like a weird fucking intel agency, like deep state, like lunatic who has dreams of power and nothing else. But like Kamala Harris, when was the last time you saw anything about Kamala Harris apart from people making fun of her for not having charisma? The only time I've ever seen her, guys, to be clear, okay? On Twitter, on Instagram, environments which are full of women and people of color who will yes queen stuff that black women do, have you seen them yes queening her? No, not even the yes queen crowd is yes queening Kamala Harris because she is so eminently hateable. They don't. Yeah, they stopped doing it after the election. She hasn't done anything. She hasn't fronted anything. Nobody likes her. Look at this shift in approval versus disapproval for Kamala Harris. And keep in mind, this is with her doing nothing. She's done nothing. She hasn't done anything. She's just been sitting in a chair in a back room. She's in a broom closet somewhere in the Oval Office. And this is what's happened. She hasn't done anything. Michelle Obama did more as First Lady than Kamala Harris has done, vastly more as First Lady than Kamala Harris has done as Vice President. Like the shift is so large, and the relative prominence. Where's the K-Hive now? Literally vanished into thin air. Well, the K-Hive were always just the most toxic yes queen crowd, right? But there's nothing to yes queen. She doesn't do anything. Like, hold on. Kamala Harris. If I look up, like, news on Kamala Harris, view full coverage. Kamala Harris ties Calhoun's 191-year-old record for breaking Senate ties. Okay. Okay, so it's all just the tie-breaking record. Okay. Okay. All right. She just hasn't done anything. She gave an embarrassing interview just after Roe v. Wade was overturned and refused to answer any question or provide solutions. Yeah, we talked about this on the stream. Or we talked about that specific interview on the stream. It was horrible. Like, it looked terrible. Do you think the Dems have a chance for 2024 if the only candidate will be Biden? I still think that Biden beats out Trump in the current environment in 2024. But don't you think it's a bad idea to get primaried when you're the incumbent? No, not at all. That's healthy. That's good. Not even remotely. Not even slightly. Primaries are good. I don't think primaries weaken the incumbent candidate. I don't think anyone who was going to vote for Biden would see him argue with, like, I don't know, Pete Buttigieg, and then think Pete Buttigieg was cool, but then Biden wins the primary, and then they decide not to vote for Biden. I don't think that's, like, a real thing. But primaries engage a lot of people, because even if you have groups that that pull interest from demographics outside the people that Biden already appeals to, they can just endorse Biden if they lose, and that can, like, improve his appearance. There's so much more to this than yeah. Real question: Kamala or Hillary? Hillary. No, literally Hillary. Kamala has done nothing. Hillary might be an unlikable, evil, spiteful piece of shit, but Hillary is also, I will give her credit for one thing, intelligent. I can't fault her on that premise. She's obviously smart. As unlikable and lizard-like as she is, that's definitely true. Kamala Harris hasn't even done anything to indicate she's intelligent because she doesn't do anything. Like, at least Hillary would be a politician. What would Kamala Harris do if she was president? What would that even be? And Hillary is more charismatic than Kamala Harris. That's true. I don't know. She's an actual cop. Look, I just don't want a fascist to win. Okay? You're putting the cart before the horse? Historically, primary challenges to the incumbent presidents are signs of extreme weakness. To be fair, Biden is kind of weak. A majority of Democrat voters say they would rather somebody else be the main candidate. Like we can't always accept the incumbent that the Democrats shove down our throat. He's too old. That's a legitimate concern. Also, what are we supposed to do after all of this is done? Like when 2024 is done, Biden, like assuming he wins, whether he does, whether he doesn't, whatever, in future elections, who else is going to step up to the plate? The field is empty. On the Republican side of things, there are tons of people who could potentially assert themselves in terms of like presidential candidacy. I'm talking Ron DeSantis, obviously. I'm talking Ted Cruz. I'm talking Lindsey Graham, less of a chance, sure. But like these are people who assert themselves continuously in the media, like as independent leaders. There are plenty of Republican governors who could also take a crack at it. But what about the Democrats? Now, I know your immediate thought would be like, oh, what about the justice? But no, think for a second. Real, like, broadly supported Democrat figures. Who? Gavin Newsom? Yeah, Gavin Newsom's an option. But he didn't even whisper anything this time around. Not even a little, oh, maybe sometime, like what? Wait, it's Gavin? No, it's Gavin. I just call him Gavin because it's California. Newsom came out swinging at DeSantis publicly a lot, but nothing about the presidency. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a sign of tremendous weakness for a party if their message is basically like, hey, a majority of our voters would prefer somebody else, but we're going with this guy anyway. No primary, not even going to like promote anyone leading up to it. Think of it like K-Fab, right? Like it's like wrestling, It's not enough to just have one guy on top. In order to have like a satisfying narrative that people can relate to, something to hook, to engage, you have to have multiple people in the ring, so to speak. You have to have like multiple participants in the process because otherwise it gets stale. I mean, politics is all kayfabe anyway, so. Is it kayfabe? Did I mispronounce that one sincerely? I'm kind of curious to know if Dem voters are fine with this because they're scared of reps. There was a study that was done just the other day. Look. Look. Do you think Joe Biden is the strongest candidate that Democrats could nominate for president in 2024? Among all voters, yes, he is 20%. But that's all voters. Among Democrats, it's 39 to 36 with a sizable chunk of like, oh, I don't know, in between. What, 25% in between? Yeah, 25%, I don't know. Like, really? And this is in an environment where there are no other primary candidates. So like, even in an environment where Joe Biden is unchallenged, not even 2/5 of Democrats are willing to say he's the strongest candidate they could nominate for president in 2024. Like, yeah, this doesn't inspire confidence in me. Yeah, 26% not sure, right? For a total of 101% because of rounding errors. The media hates Biden because he's old. The media, there is no the media. There's right-wing and left-wing media. And left-wing media is like positive to fine with Joe Biden, and right-wing media thinks that he's a lizard person, which they'll think of any left-leaning candidate. Yeah, Quoteth, I really just don't know how much it would hurt Biden to have like any kind of challenge to him. Right? Like, keep in mind, 2020 had some pretty robust Democratic primaries, which ended with Joe Biden getting more votes than any other presidential candidate in history. What was it, like 82 million or something in 2020? He dealt with Elizabeth Warren. He dealt with where has Elizabeth Warren been? He dealt with Bernie. He dealt with Pete Buttigieg. He dealt with Kamala Harris and then folded her under his wing for VP. And then he went on to get the most votes ever. And yeah, just like, KCJ from LI, you're going to catch a ban again if you keep all caps typing. I don't know why you struggle so much to earn my attention when you know it'll just get you banned. Vosh, am I correct in saying as bad as he is, Biden is the best president the USA has had in decades? If not, who is better? I don't know. There's no, it's hard to quantify like the best in that regard. In terms of progressivism, he's the most progressive president ever in an absolute sense, of course, like relative to his environment. I don't know. He's better than the Clintons, obviously. He's better than Obama. I mean, Carter was a better man, but not a very effective, leader. I mean, I don't know, but Biden is not as bad of a president as I expected him to be, but the tides are rising and we have higher expectations, okay? Clinton was not dealing with the threat of a fascist takeover of our government. There were problems in the 90s, but that wasn't one of them. George Bush was not a existential threat to democracy the way the Republican Party is today. So things have escalated significantly. Obama is his only competition in 20 years. I don't care for Obama. I don't. Obviously better than McCain and Romney, but disagree about Bush. Well, we had Bush for 8 years. I think it's pretty obvious the Republican Party today is more of a threat to democracy than the Republican Party was back in 2000 to 2008. Totally different party. The right now, if the current Republican Party were like moved back in time, they would be treated by the 2000 to 2008 era Republican Party largely as like lunatic extremists. There's been a huge shift in the right in this country. He certainly paved the way for the current GOP. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, historical materialism. The forces that led one to the other, largely being like religious extremism, xenophobia, and like radical fear of like government involvement, leading like sort of chaining down the line to where we are now. But they were at a different stage back then. Don't forget homophobia. Bush was big on that. Yeah, but I'm not going to lie. The homophobia back then was not as vitriolic as the transphobia today. Like right now, the mainstream right-wing position on trans people, and also largely on LGBTQ people broadly, is that they're like a cabal of society corrupting pedophiles who are destroying the West. Now, obviously, the Republican Party was anti-gay back in 2000, but if I remember, for the most part, with the exception of like the big religious like far-right preachers that you'd hear on the radio, usually their attitude towards gay people was more of a, it's unnatural and I don't approve of that. And that was kind of like the line. There was this patronizing, well, we're here to support, what normal life is, and like other stuff is like, we're not for that. That's not what marriage is. That's not what like love is. But it wasn't the same kind of hyperbolic existential fear mongering. That was more back in the 1980s, back when the AIDS crisis and the Reagan administration was leading to like the most like exaggerated degree of homophobic pushback. But it petered out over time, right? I mean, but now it's come back, not for the AIDS crisis, but for the existence of trans people. So it's. What are we talking about? We're talking about a few things, I think. Reagan's fault, as always. As many things are, yes. Vosh, that's just civility, decorum. In material terms, it was just as bad. No, I disagree. I really think that, like, the policy extrapolation of the mainstream Republican position today is genocide. I don't think they were doing gay genocide in the year 2000. In 1980, yes, 100%. Because the official position of the Reagan administration was prevent the CDC from looking at AIDS to allow gay people to die because they thought it was a plague from God. In 2000, it was like they didn't like gay people. They were homophobic. I'm not saying they weren't. But the policy extrapolation of those positions was more stuff like don't ask, don't tell. Not like Republicans screaming into the microphone about how they need to eradicate the gay degeneracy. That's just not the vibe of like 2002, It was much more milquetoast. It was much more liberal. But now with the trans stuff, it's gone right back over to the society is ending, kill the degenerates, blah, 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 which probably isn't good. It was literal genocide with Reagan. Yeah, it was. Yeah, for sure. 100%. There's also a lot more social like stratification these days, whereas back 20 years ago in like 2003, basically everyone was pretty homophobic, but you would get a range of like homophobic but tolerant and homophobic but intolerant, where basically everyone thought that being gay was weird and gross, but there were like the liberal attitude was, yeah, it's weird and gross, but like, love is love, okay, like just don't bother people with it. And like, all right, you're a person too. And then like the right position was like, well, no, they shouldn't be in the military. Don't ask, don't tell. You know, if they don't find out, like, no, they shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be doing that. Shouldn't marry. Whereas nowadays, society has reached a schism where like 50% of this country is like the youth in our schools are growing up in environments where they meet non-binary people when they're in like high school, and like then they go on social media and they're all saying like this is gay, that's gay, but in a positive way. And they're all like like half of the population is like culturally gay, and the other half of the population, it's more like 60-40 actually, is like, you know, kill them all, kill the degenerates, extreme far right anti-gay hate or anti-trans hate. So things are more stratified now, you know. The GOP gay marriage acceptance rate over time. Oh yeah, no, the gay marriage acceptance rate has been climbing up. I'm more concerned in like the rate of like, do you think society is ending because of queer people? Oh, got a little dip here. That's nice. On the morality of same-sex relations. From 71 to 64 in just 1 year. This is a pretty significant drop for 1 year. Probably just radicalizing the people who were like milquetoast on the right. Scroll down a little. Yeah, it's like all Republicans. And I don't know if even the average Republican voter is that hateful towards queer people. No, I've said this before. Not every Republican is that far gone. I'm just generalizing here about like the state of things. Also, well, keep in mind, like, you know, it's a pretty significant drop in the morality acceptance thing here, but the overall numbers are still pretty positively in our favor. Swagnar, same Vosh, has never lived anywhere even a little red, so he doesn't really get the conditions most of the U.S. Why are you complaining about what I've said? What have I said is inaccurate? Lynchings of gay men were a thing in 2000. The one Idaho guy was mid-90s. Liz falling up. Please shut up, okay? Stop. You can't. I didn't say there weren't lynchings or hate crimes back then, okay? Oh my God. Do you seriously think that there's like any degree of comparable severity between the anti-gay or anti-LGBT attitudes of today or 1980 compared to 2000? Come on. You're like reading into what I'm saying. You're thinking what I'm saying is that like things were fine then. I'm not saying things were fine then. They weren't. But the broader attitude that people had with regards to promoting homophobia from the right was not the same as what it is now. It's just not. It's not. It's just not. I'm not saying things were fine then. You forget that Bush was pushing for a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. What? Okay, I'm actually going to start banning you guys. What I'm saying is a fact. You can be mad about it if you want, but deliberately misinterpreting me and then smugly correcting me with information that obviously accounts for what I'm saying. Like, what? Why? Why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate me like this? Yes, obviously, the Republicans in 2000 were anti-gay marriage. Why would that be? When did I even remotely suggest that wasn't the case? I'm talking about the attitude that queer people represent an existential threat to the nation and are degenerates who need to be destroyed. That is the current attitude of the Republican Party, and that was not the broad attitude of the Republican Party in the year 2000. They were still homophobic. They still didn't support gay marriage. They still thought that it was bad and morally wrong or whatever. They were still religious extremists. I'm not saying any of those things aren't true. I'm not saying they used to be tolerant. I'm just saying that the mood is shifted. I don't know why. Why would you go? Why are you doing this to me? I feel like my statement here is fairly straightforward. I'm not rehabilitating the Bush years, okay? Okay, I'm sorry for yelling at you. But, like, come on. Obviously, there's a difference here. Big difference between public politics and private life is the thing. The party has gotten much worse, but private hatred hasn't. Yeah, I'm talking about the party platform. I would say that the private hatred of queer people has taken a different tone. But privately, like, homophobes have always been, like violent lunatics. Though I do think there's been a shift in the way that it's manifested. Schwarzenegger was governor from 2003 to 2011. I think he represents the last stop before the GOP shift into the genocide stuff. He opposed legal recognition of same-sex marriage, but otherwise he supported LGBT rights legislation, including civil unions. Yeah, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger fits in the same category as like Mitt Romney, basically, though he is more progressive than Mitt Romney, where he's a Republican. He's not like a super progressive or whatever, but he's very obviously not motivated by some kind of like underlying genocidal intent. In that respect, he's ended up being one of the cooler like post Republican. Like obviously he's still like a shit guy in a lot of ways, but you know what I mean. He's also directly addressed the increasing prominence of neo-Nazism on the right, which is pretty cool. Who would you vote for if it was Bloomberg as a Dem and Romney as a Republican for president? Well, I'll always vote for Democrats just because the party apparatus, the Republicans, have to be destroyed. Matt, I guess if the real question was, who would I prefer as a Dem candidate, Bloomberg or Romney, with no other choices? I actually don't know which one I'd prefer. Bloomberg's policies are nominally better than Romney's, for sure, but Bloomberg is also just an empty suit, and Romney actually does have some kind of principles, which is why he didn't take the easy money grift by shifting into full-on MAGA country, along with the rest of his party. Like, Romney has to represent some kind of moral center, even if it's not my moral center. I might actually choose Romney over Bloomberg. But this is like a lesser evil thing. This is not an endorsement of either of them. Bloomberg is like Trump now. Well, I mean, he's wealthy like Trump. He's not like Trump policy-wise, but no, I mean, yeah. It's mostly a matter of like, because I feel like this is like a vibes-based thing, but I really do think that perceived honesty and integrity mean a lot when it comes to candidacy, right? Like, that matters a lot. It's not just the policies that people have. If I get an impression from them that I feel like they're fucking evil and empty, I'm probably less inclined to think highly of their proposed policies, because politicians lie and misrepresent stuff all the time. Romney winning would become a conduit for Mormon cultism. They literally believe if a Mormon wins the presidency, Jesus will come back or something. Well, then it'll be funny to see the sparks fly, I guess. Mormons, a very normal group of people. It's their time. It's their time. Destiny or Hassan president. Okay, if Hassan gets a cabinet of people who can like correct him on foreign policy, Hassan. If Destiny gets locked in a box where he never gets exposed to a left-leaning person telling him that they disagree with anything that he's done, then Destiny. Assuming Hassan doesn't get the foreign policy cabinet. If we can somehow enter Destiny into like an anti-spite machine that prevents him from making decisions based on that, and he makes decisions purely based on, I don't know, whatever policy was written in blue ink or whatever motivates him, then I would pick that over the foreign policy cabinet less Hassan. Yeah, if imagine a frictionless spherical Destiny, blue, of course. Now theoretically, what about Hassan president, Destiny VP? No, that would be the war. Are you fucking kidding me? Them working together? Are you kidding me? You have any idea? That would be the end of the world. Absolutely not. It's worse than any other possible combination of possibilities. That would be like a return to the beginning of America, where the vice president was the presidential candidate who had the second largest number of votes. We would get like an Aaron Burr situation where the VP would just be like the guy who's salty about not being president, and they would just sabotage the president's cabinet. Can't believe that was the system before. Yeah, it only took them a couple presidential elections to change it before Jefferson changed it, because that was a pretty dumb system, Yeah, let's have the second commander-in-chief be the guy who ran against the first one, Would you accept a job in the Hassan cabinet? Yeah, put me in the DOT. I want to do a better job than Pete Buttigieg. I want to show people that homosexuals can actually do a good job managing this country's rail network, okay? I will be the most corrupt DOT leader in all of history. I will be like Huey Long up there. Trillions of dollars will disappear from Pentagon funds, and suddenly, overnight, rail networks will spring up across the country, okay? I will bankrupt every institution but our rail networks, okay? We will have dining and sleeper cars traveling at 136 miles per hour across the country 24/7 with stops every 5 minutes. Where people are shunted onto the train via like hydraulic tubes in a nanosecond before they continue. They won't even have to stop. People will just be shunted into these like hydraulic tubes and then dropped through openings in the top, okay? Everyone will be able to get everywhere in no time at all. No one will take planes again. All of the highways will crumble and we'll save money off of not having to repair them. Yeah, get this. The train station catches up instead of the train slowing down. Exactly. Replace all roads with steel? Of course, naturally. Hey, listen, okay? It's a meal on every man's table, a job in every man's portfolio, and a private rail line to every man's front door, okay? You want some groceries? Get on your little private toot-toot train, okay? You're getting on there, and you are going right down to the grocery store that is 4 blocks away, all right? We will not build walkable neighborhoods. We will build railable neighborhoods. They'll all be like those, those like hand crank railroad boards. You know what I'm talking about? Those things where like the like two guys have a big, like this, the hand cars. Just like everyone right to their front door, you know? Everyone's going to be fucking ripped because they're going to be doing like the rowing exercise every time they go outside. These are actually like so cute though. Look, here's like a modern one. Isn't this so cute? Can you imagine like, oh yeah, dude, just gotta like pop down to the store and then you like get on your, look at this. This has 3 wheels. Why does it have 3 wheels? That doesn't make any sense, but sure. Whatever, dude. That's cool. Oh, look. Here's a farmer and their kid, probably. Come on. Don't you want an America where this is how people get around? Come on, little Joseph. It's time for us to go to the park. This is the world that we deserve to live in. 3 wheels better than 2. Yeah, I expected 4, not 2. In fascist America, everyone gets rail. Yeah. What would cop cars look like? Cop cars would look exactly like this, except they'd be painted blue, and they would have, like, a little metal, like, bumper with, like, spikes on it, like a ramming bumper. So they would, like, they'd be, like, pedaling really hard to catch up, and they'd, like, ram you at 1 mile per hour faster than you're going, you know? Police chases would be hilarious. Yeah, every police officer would have to look like Terry Crews so they could, move it really quick. What do you do for biking, though? Okay, get this, okay? Biking will just be monorail cars, all right? So basically, a bike just has like a rail bracket that you slot on top of one side of the rail, and then it's literally like a one-man monorail, and you just zoom ahead. How about that? Genius. BC Man 71 builds bike that can glide along unused railroad. Hell yeah. Look, everyone. Look at the future of America. So good. Average median voter. The front wheel isn't comically large enough. We can work on that. We can work on that. So good. What would fire departments do? There would be no need for fire departments because everything would be made out of metal. And as we know, trains never catch on fire.